You know what's crazy? Most people want success, but only a tiny fraction are actually willing to think like the ones who have it. The truth is, the 1% don't just work harder, they think differently. They see challenges as failure as feedback, and time is their most valuable currency. I'm robdialjr, and today I'm going to help you rewire your mind for success, to think like the 1%, act like the 1%, and build a life that 99% of people only dream about. Because everything you want starts in one place, your mindset. You have to understand something. Your entire life is being created by the thoughts that you allow to live inside your mind. Every single result you see right now, every win, every setback, every situation you're in, it all began as a thought. Most people never realize that they are the architects of their own reality. They spend their lives reacting, not creating. They allow their minds to be filled with doubt, fear, and negativity. And then they wonder why they can't move forward. The 1% think differently. They know that the mind is a tool, and if you learn to control it, you can shape your future into anything you want. When you start paying attention to your thoughts, you'll realize how much of what runs through your head every day is automatic. It's programming, built from your past, your environment, the people you've listened to, and the stories you've told yourself. Most of it doesn't even belong to you. It's borrowed from someone who gave up on their own dreams a long time ago. The 1% learn to reprogram that. They become aware of what they're saying to themselves and start shifting the narrative. Instead of, I can't do this, they tell themselves, I'm learning how to do this. Instead of, I'm not good enough, they repeat, I'm getting better every single day. These small mental shifts may sound simple, but they change everything, because what you think consistently becomes what you believe, and what you believe becomes who you are. You'll never rise above the story you tell yourself. If you keep saying you're stuck, you'll stay stuck. If you keep saying you're not ready, you'll never start. Your words are commands to your subconscious mind, and your subconscious doesn't argue, it obeys. So if you feed it limitation, it gives you more of it. But if you start feeding it possibility, power, and progress, your brain begins to work for you, not against you. This is how the 1% operate. They're not luckier. They've just learned to speak a new language, the language of belief, growth, and persistence. The difference between the 1% and the rest isn't just what they do, it's how they think before they do it. When they fail, they don't say, this didn't work. They say, this taught me something. They don't see setbacks as signs to stop, they see them as signals to adjust. Every challenge becomes a lesson. Every obstacle becomes an opportunity. That mindset shift turns pain into progress and fear into fuel. Once you start thinking like that, you stop running from problems and start growing through them. If you can master your thoughts, you can master your life. It's not about being perfect, it's about being intentional. Every time you catch yourself thinking small, remind yourself that those thoughts are not facts, they're habits. And habits can be changed. The 1% know that growth begins the moment you stop accepting the limits your mind once believed. Because the truth is, your thoughts create your world. And when you change your thoughts, you change everything. Most people wait for the right moment to start. They wait until they feel ready, until they're motivated, until everything lines up perfectly. But that moment never really comes. The truth is, motivation is temporary. It's an emotion, and emotions are unreliable. One day you feel unstoppable, the next you just want to give up. The 1% understand this better than anyone. They don't depend on how they feel. They depend on what they've committed to. That's where discipline comes in. Discipline isn't about pushing yourself when it's easy. It's about showing up when it's hard, especially when it's hard. When you look at the top performers in any area, athletes, entrepreneurs, artists, creators, they're not the best because they're always inspired. They're the best because they've built routines that make results inevitable. They know that greatness isn't built in one big moment of inspiration. It's built through thousands of small, boring, consistent actions that no one sees. They wake up early, they train, they study, they practice, not because they feel like it, but because it's what needs to be done. They've learned that discipline isn't punishment, it's freedom. Freedom from excuses, from inconsistency, from regret. There's something powerful that happens when you stop negotiating with your excuses. When you stop telling yourself, I'll do it tomorrow, and you just do it now. You build self-respect. Every time you follow through on what you said you would do, you send a signal to your brain that your word matters. That's confidence, not the kind that comes from compliments or results, but the kind that comes from knowing you can rely on yourself. That's what separates the 1% from everyone else. They trust themselves because they keep the promises they make, even when no one is watching. Discipline also teaches you emotional control. You stop being a slave to your moods. You start realizing that your emotions can exist, but they don't get to dictate your actions. You can feel tired and still show up. You can feel discouraged and still put in the work. You can feel fear and still move forward. That's real strength, doing what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like doing it. It's not glamorous, it's not flashy, but it's what builds greatness, because every small act of discipline compounds. Every day you choose discipline over comfort, you're not just building habits, you're building character. You want to know why most people quit? It's not because they can't handle the work. It's because they can't handle the repetition. They chase the feeling of excitement, but can't embrace the process that leads to mastery. But the 1% understand that consistency is the bridge between dreams and reality. They know that the secret to success isn't doing something extraordinary once, it's doing the ordinary things with extraordinary consistency. Discipline doesn't just create results, it creates freedom. The freedom to live life on your own terms, to look back with pride, and to know you became the person you were meant to be. Because the truth is, when motivation fades, discipline is what keeps your dreams alive. Most people fall in love with the idea of success, but very few fall in love with the process that creates it. They want the reward, but they don't want the repetition. They want the results, but they don't want the grind. The 1% think differently. They understand that real success doesn't come from chasing the outcome. It comes from mastering the process. Because when you're obsessed with results, every setback feels like failure. But when you fall in love with the process, every day becomes progress, no matter how small. The reason so many people give up too soon is that they expect instant results. We live in a world that rewards speed, fast food, fast internet, instant gratification. But growth doesn't work that way. You don't plant a seed today and expect a tree tomorrow. You water it, you nurture it, you protect it. And one day, without even realizing it, that seed becomes something strong, something alive. The process is what transforms you. It teaches you patience, humility, and resilience. The 1% understand that success is not a destination, it's a lifestyle. It's built one choice, one discipline, one day at a time. There's something powerful about showing up for yourself even when there's no applause, no recognition, no visible progress. Because that's when your character is being built. That's when you're developing the grit and consistency that most people will never have. Every great athlete, every successful entrepreneur, every top performer you admire, they all went through seasons where nothing seemed to work. But instead of quitting, they stayed in the process. They trusted the work they were doing, even when they couldn't yet see the results. And that trust, that patience, is what ultimately separates the 1% from everyone else. When you fall in love with the process, you stop attaching your worth to the outcome. You stop measuring success by how far you've gone and start measuring it by how committed you've become. You begin to find joy in the journey itself, in the discipline, in the lessons, in the progress no one else sees. Because that's where the transformation happens. You realize that it's not about reaching a finish line, it's about who you become on the way there. So many people burn out because they chase results that never come fast enough. But the 1% know that the process is the real prize. Every day they choose to show up, they're becoming more focused, more capable, more aligned with their purpose. And when you fall in love with that, when you stop needing things to happen now and start trusting that everything is unfolding exactly as it should, you step into a level of peace and power that can't be shaken by failure or delay. Because the truth is, when you learn to love the process, the results always take care of themselves. Your environment is silently shaping who you are every single day. The people you talk to, the energy around you, the conversations you entertain, the content you consume, all of it is influencing the way you think, feel, and act. Most people don't realize how powerful this is. You can have the biggest goals in the world, but if your environment doesn't support growth, you'll keep shrinking to fit in. The 1% know this truth deeply. Your environment can either be your greatest weapon or your biggest limitation. Think about it. You can't expect to think like a winner if you spend every day surrounded by negativity, gossip, and complaining. You can't expect to rise when everyone around you is comfortable staying average. Energy is contagious. If you spend enough time around people who settle, you'll start to believe settling is normal. If you hang around those who push harder, dream bigger, and challenge themselves daily, you'll naturally start to level up. The 1% are intentional about who they let in their space. They choose to be around people who stretch their thinking, who challenge their limits, and who remind them of their potential, not their excuses. But it's not just about people, it's about the energy you allow into your life in every form. What are you feeding your mind? What do you watch, listen to, or scroll through every day? Because everything you consume is programming your subconscious. If your mind is constantly filled with distraction, comparison, and negativity, you'll never have clarity or peace. But when you start feeding it with knowledge, growth, and purpose, you begin to see your life shift. The 1% protect their mental space like it's sacred because they understand that whatever you allow in your mind, you eventually live out in your reality. And here's something people often forget. Sometimes it's not just about adding new people or new habits, it's about letting go of the ones that no longer serve you. Growth often means outgrowing. It means loving some people from a distance because their energy no longer aligns with your vision. It means saying no more often, not out of arrogance, but out of awareness. You have to protect your environment like your future depends on it, because it does. You can't become your best self in a place that constantly reminds you of your old self. The 1% take responsibility for their surroundings. If they can't find a powerful environment, they create one. They build spaces where growth is normal, where goals are supported, and where discipline is celebrated. They understand that success isn't just built from the inside out, it's also built from the outside in. Because the truth is, you can't grow in a room that keeps you small. Your environment will either drain your potential or develop it. Choose wisely, because what surrounds you will eventually shape you.